So I'm beginning to realize more so now than ever, just how powerful my voice is, and also the importance of me making sure that I get things jotted down because I'm going to forget. I'm going to forget the things I want to share later, especially when I have this charge around me. And so having a tool like the voice notes app, voice memos, really helps me to just remember. And so I figured this is more just like a compilation of everything that I want to make sure I remember to talk about, which I hope would then inspire you perhaps when you're in this space of, oh my gosh, I have so many things I want to talk about. I don't want to forget it. And so what do? I like brain dump. And in this sense, I voice dump where I'm like speaking so quickly. I need to get it all in my head and like onto a piece of paper. But right now I'm like getting myself ready. So I can't do that. We don't always have time to I don't want to say that. We don't, in that moment of feeling electric and feeling charged, like for myself, especially my brain moves really, really quickly. And so for me, it's almost like I get impatient with myself to sit down, write it out. And so I just need to release and let go. And I feel like there's so much, it's so powerful hearing your voice back to you, especially when you're like, okay, I need to remember what is it that I want to talk about? What is it that I want to share? And so, the first bit that I'm like, okay, I need to talk about this. I need to talk about showing up, the power of showing up vulnerably when things are not perfect. I heard my coach say something along the lines of, it's almost like we don't give ourselves permission to show up when things aren't perfect. We're like, I have to be perfect because I'm a coach. Otherwise I can't show up because then what will people think? And, I'm a mindset coach, mindfulness coach. This is something that, and of course, that means I still have limited beliefs. I'm human. That's part of the human experience. It's almost like we expect perfection. We expect that if we're a coach, we should have our shits, right? Our life together and all of that. And then when we don't, we're like, oh, okay, we shame ourselves. We judge ourselves and we're like, okay, well, I'm not perfect. Therefore I can't show up because how would people perceive me? All of that. But it's like setting that aside and go, no, this is my humanity. I'm being human. We're all spiritual beings, right? Having a human experience, allowing our clients then our potential clients or others to really witness us in our vulnerability, witnessing us when things don't feel perfect, I think is perfect because then it gives them an opportunity really to tap into, themselves and say, it's okay. What I'm feeling right now, it's okay. It's normal. We normalize the ups and downs, the ebbs and flow of business, of life, all of it, of motherhood or whatever it is you're experiencing, the roller coaster rides, the dips, the valleys, and also the highs, right? Where people will support us. We can support others in the valley, in the depths, and then we can celebrate others in the highs, and we can celebrate ourselves in the highs. So by not exposing, but more so allowing, pulling back the curtains and saying, this is what I've been struggling with. These are the areas that I'm going through right now. And then of course, having boundaries in place where we're like, I don't have to share something just because I'm going through it. But if I choose to, because I feel like there's a lesson there. I feel like, of course, there's a lesson in every single thing that we experience, both, quote unquote good and quote unquote bad. I don't necessarily always like to label things because depending on perception and perspective, someone who may label something as bad is actually like a positive experience for them. And this even let's, for example, money, right? For someone who has never hit 10K months, they're celebrating. That's their high because that's amazing. And it's so powerful. Such a good month. For someone else who's used to having 20K months or beyond, getting a 10K month all of a sudden feels like, oh my God, that's awful. That's bad. What are we going to do? We don't have enough. Their mortgage might be 10K, right? And so it's all perception. So that's the reason why I try to steer clear for the most part of labeling things as good and bad. It's all very much neutral. It's our perception, our perspective that makes it good and bad. So anywho, I digress. I just want to make sure that when I'm experiencing something, that I use that and then I make it okay. It's almost like I give you permission from hearing me, from seeing me in my vulnerability and saying, it's okay. I feel that too. And when I'm going through this One is very normal, part of being human, the human experience, very real. Okay. It helps you in a sense to almost validate how you're feeling, especially if you grew up as a child where you felt like your feelings were not validated. You didn't feel heard and seen. And that's so many of us. I know that to be true because I work with so many clients who will share that, where as children, they were often under the expectation that, you should be seen and not heard. And because of that, they were made to feel like their voice doesn't matter, that it was safe to play small because then you don't get ridiculed, you don't get in trouble with mom or dad or whoever your primary caregiver was. And so because of that, we didn't feel safe to then use our voice or to be seen. We didn't feel safe to ask for things, to feel supported. How many of you are raising your hands right now and thinking, oh my gosh, that's me? Because then it's almost belittled. It's like, no, that doesn't matter. Oh, you're too dramatic. You're too dramatic, right? It's not a big deal. It's like being told that your feelings are not valid, and that your needs are not valid is so hurtful. As children, we become adults, and what happens as adults, we go into relationships where we are not sure how to communicate our needs. That is it okay for me to actually tell the other person what my needs are? And so I know, especially as women, we go into a relationship, we expect the other person to know because we didn't grow up in a setting where it felt safe to actually speak out loud, say out loud what it is that we need. And we weren't given examples of what that looks like, what that sounds like. And because of it, we have this like really chaotic dynamic in our relationship. It's the same with our friendships, right? We may not know how to set clear boundaries, like all these things that we learn as children. What we do then is we want to take a look and reflect back, and it's just like, okay, what am I experiencing now? When have I felt that before? That's the reason I go through the EFT process, right? The way I'm feeling right now. So usually when I'm feeling, let's say I'm feeling chaotic right now, right? Feeling really chaotic, and then I'm not quite sure what it is. And it's okay when you're doing like an EFT tapping session and you're not quite sure what it is and you just want to clear it. So perhaps what you are clearing is, I'm feeling really chaotic right now. Even though I'm feeling really chaotic right now, I love and accept myself exactly as I am. Deep breath in, release and let go. Even though I'm feeling really chaotic right now, I'm still a good person. I'm worthy of love. Like going through that sequence first, deep breaths in and releasing, because as you do that, you're allowed oxygen to flow throughout your body, right? And then you'll also begin to say all those things out loud. Like, what is all the thoughts, all the feelings, all the emotion? I was actually doing this while I was driving. Okay. Of course, I'm like not taking both my hands off the wheels, very careful and diligent about that, because I was feeling really frustrated and I couldn't pinpoint what it was that I was feeling. It was just, you know how you have days where it just feels like everything that could go wrong goes wrong, right? You have that mindset and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm having one of these days where everything is going wrong. This is it. No wonder I feel this way, right? The problem with that mindset, of course, is that we add more, we contribute to more of that belief. We like solidify. And because and we'll talk about this in another like session or whatever, is the reticular activating system that is looking for evidence of why that is true. So then more crappy things happen throughout your day and you're like, see, this is why it's a bad day. Versus it's like, okay, feel it. I need to clear this energy. It's not feeling good, right? That's the reason we do our EFT. You can absolutely do it in the car. You don't need to do a deep dive where you're like, I have to go back into my childhood, figure out where that point is. I absolutely, like, if it's something that's recurring and it's like you noticing this pattern over and over again, absolutely recommend you do that. At other times, you don't really need to like dive deep with every single thing. Versus it's like, okay, I just need to clear this energy. 5-10 minutes EFT, totally just clears energy. And then it helps you begin to feel the tension just release. And so that's what I experienced for myself. It's like that release of tension. And then I went into my truths. And what's very interesting is sometimes when I go into my truths, I need to identify if I need more water or if I need more fire. Okay. So first I was like, oh, maybe maybe I'll do another recording on this, but just to give you an overview. So basically when we talk about fire, we're talking about more, I don't like to call it more the tough love, but sometimes it's like that higher self of you who's like taking a look at what you're experiencing. It's almost like you're looking at yourself from like this higher perspective and you're like, oh my God, like, no, 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 no. Like your higher self is looking down, seeing everything that you are experiencing right now and with the stories you're telling yourself. And she's saying, no, 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 no. You need to take accountability. So usually the fire for me personally, everyone's a little different, needs to come when I go into the mode of like, is this person's fault? Is my husband's fault? Is my kid's fault? Right? My client's fault? My audience, like basically everyone else, my friend's fault, like everyone else except for us. Okay. I experienced that too. So right now, if you're like, no, I'm someone who takes full accountability, I absolutely believe that. We take full accountability. It's easier for us to do when we're not clouded by overwhelm, when we're not frustrated. If only life would be this way. See, it's God's fault. If he only have things structured a certain way, then everything would be fine. So for me, it was just like this buildup, right? My back was hurting. So I had injured my back. I was having to do physical therapy to release that, you know? And then what else? Just coming off vacation, going right into like the school year where things just feel busier, right? Again, perception. Things feel, notice I said feel busier, but time moves the same. I want you to hear me. Things feel busy, but time moves the same. It's actually not faster or slower. It's the same. A minute still consists of 60 seconds, but our perception of it is that it's faster. And what do we do when things are faster? We move faster. And when we move faster, it feels like time quickens. Whereas, you see how I'm intentionally doing that? I move slower. Time begins to slow down. It's our perception of time. Because time doesn't move. God's not moving like heaven and earth to say, oh, she's feeling like things are going faster. We gotta slow down. It's the other way around. It's like, okay, when things feel busier, we have to slow down. That's the reason I love EFT. It's so effective because it helps you to slow down. We go into the breathing, all of that, because it's going to slow us down, help ground us, especially when you're feeling anxious. A lot of our anxiety is created because we are thinking about something that either happened in the past and we're like, oh no, I'm going to experience it in the future. And our subconscious mind does not understand the difference between future and past. So our thoughts then is buying into the idea that it's happening now. And then we create overwhelm. We create the frustration, all of that, right? So that's going to be on probably another recording. But, so I was feeling all these things. And for me, it's like, okay, it was easy then for me to say, okay, my back hurts, da, da, da. If everything was perfect, first day of school and the kids were doing what they're supposed to, everything would have been perfect, right? And life is not perfect. Life doesn't operate in perfection. And just all those little elements, right? Of course, we're like, oh, my husband could help more. All these thoughts, all these things that are our brain, right? Our thoughts. Remember, we are not our thoughts, but our thoughts like just come up out of the blue and then it creates all this drama, the feelings that we experience. And then it's easy for us to blame others. I was blaming everyone. It was everyone's fault. My higher self, then it's like, okay, this is the fire. The higher self comes and she's like, no, 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 no. In each of those situations, where were you responsible? Okay. So that's the fire. The fire comes and you want to use fire. You want both. The fire comes when there is a lack of accountability on your part. You're not holding yourself accountable to the standard in which you want your life to be. Whatever it is you want to experience. That's the fire. That's when I use fire. And for you, it may be another time where you're like, okay, I want to use fire. You want to balance it out with love. The love, the water is the love, the compassion. For those of you who operate in fire, what you want to make sure to always do is balance it with water. You need that love and compassion, because beating yourself up because you miss a workout is not going to help you to get to the shape or whatever, the weight that you desire. It's not, because if it was already working, if beating yourself up, making yourself feel like crap for forgetting to work out will help you to get there, you would already be there. Hear me, okay? If beating yourself up because you missed a workout or you didn't do the thing or whatever it is was already working, you would already be there. You would already be at that weight. You would already have that successful business. You would already feel like the perfect wife, whatever it is, right? Instead, we meet it with love and compassion, because energy does not disappear. It transmutes. We transmute it with love. And how much better does that feel within our nervous system for us to be carrying love, light, compassion versus judgment and criticism and just holding on to it? Because if I criticize myself some more, if I beat her up some more, she's going to change. Honey, it's no. It's been like, 3 decades or so that has not come to fruition. So clearly beating ourselves up is not working. And for those of you who've experienced that a lot in your childhood where you were met with self-love, that external voice becomes our internal voice. And we don't know how to operate outside of that. So what will you do? You begin reparenting. You begin speaking to yourself in a way in which you're like, this is what I would have given to my younger self. This is how I would have shown her love. So in that instance, after I gave myself some of that, holding myself accountable, I also went in. And it's completely understandable that I feel that way. It is frustrating when those things happen. So you can have both, and you need both. That's my true belief, is that you need both the fire and the water. You absolutely do. Right? Sometimes in business, we talk about you need the mindset and the energetics. I'm sorry. You need both the energetics and the strategy, because it's true. You need both. Because if you're going to sit and we're just going to journal all day and do mindset work, but we're not actually taking the action on the business, law of action is not we're not actually doing our part. We're not co-creating our life. We're not co-creating the business. It's very hard then for you to have a business if you're not going to have any strategy. Like if you're just going to journal all day, not connect with anyone, not do a single thing, don't go on any discovery calls, don't coach, all of that, you're not going to have a business, right? And then of course, the flip side of that is taking on every single strategy, because every single strategy does work. Again, another recording, but all those strategies work. You just have to be energetically behind it. Okay. Otherwise, it's not going to work for you. So, I hope that this was helpful for you. So this is something I highly recommend. So when you're like, oh my gosh, I really want to talk about this, I'm going to forget. I'm like, I'm going to put a voice note. And it was so funny because I actually came on a voice note with the intention of basically saying, okay, I'm just going to drop this. And then after, just so the things that I don't forget, and became like this electric, this like, oh my gosh, this is his own like episode of recording, whatever, unintentionally, because there's a charge behind it. I'm feeling it. And that's what we want to get into. Is like when we feel this charge, I want you to have a tool. So using, just press record or the voice notes app, incredible, because you have that tool available to you and you can do it while you're even driving. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I don't want to forget this. Or you're like, something is coming through right now and I'm the channel. It needs to be put out. Someone needs to hear this right now. So I'm going to put it out. I'm going to just do my part. I'm going to trust it. I'm going to trust that this message is meant for someone. I've talked about this before, so I'm not going to dive into it here, but your message is always meant for someone. So make sure you capture it. All right, friends. Hope this was helpful for you, and I will see you next time.